Hi students, today we are going to talk about main idea. And I was going to show you something on my screen, but I thought I would just show it to you on here. And main idea helps readers when they are reading stories or newspaper articles or magazines. They help readers like you and like me to help us understand the story better or the article or whatever it might be. And it might take us a couple of times to read the passage or the story to find out the main idea. But it is like the main idea is what the author is writing about, okay? Like, what does the author want you to take away from that story or that passage or that article? So I want you to think of a main idea as, let me grab a pencil. I want you to think of a main idea as the cone in an ice cream cone, okay? So here is a delicious looking ice cream cone. Looks like we have some chocolate ice cream. Maybe this is like key lime. And this could be like a strawberry or a watermelon sherbet. And then here's our cone. So I want you to think of the main idea like a cone, okay? It holds everything together because without the cone here, the ice cream would fall on the floor, okay? So the main idea is like the cone. It is the main thing that holds the details in place. And the details are like the scoops of ice cream. They support the main idea, okay? Because it's not like you don't want to have just the cone either without the ice cream scoops because that's no fun. So they both help each other out. So the cone holds onto the ice cream. It's the main thing. And the little scoops of ice cream are just on top of it. And they are like the details, okay? They support the main idea. And we wouldn't have the main idea if it wasn't for the details, okay? We wouldn't have any ice cream cone if it wasn't for the actual ice cream, okay? So the details are very important. And if you are in my class, you hear me say that I want to see you write with lots of details all of the time, okay? So we are going to actually read a little passage about reindeer. I'm in the Christmas spirit today, and you might say, Miss Johnson, it's so early for that. Well, it is November now, so I love Christmas, and I want to start talking about it. So we're going to read a passage about reindeer, and then you're going to do your own seesaw assignment talking about the main idea of our story, Young Thomas Edison, that we've been reading this week. So I'm going to take this away now, and I'm going to put our passage here. Okay. Here is our passage about reindeer. This is just one that I found online. I think reindeer are very fascinating creatures. So we're going to learn a little bit about reindeer. And then we are going to fill out this main idea flowchart. Okay, so we will decide what the main idea of the passage is together, and then we will write 3 details of how we know that is the main idea. But first we have to read. So the title is Reindeer. Did you know that all reindeer do not just live at the North Pole? It's true. Reindeer are interesting creatures. They can be found in northern Asia, Europe, Siberia, Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. In North America, reindeer are called caribou. They are nomadic species, which means they are constantly moving from place to place in large herds that may contain thousands of reindeer. They survive the cold temperatures of their habitats because their coat has 2 layers. A soft wool underlayer lies against its skin. Long, hollow guard hairs form the top layer. These special layers help to keep them warm and dry. Just like Rudolph, a reindeer's nose plays an important part in its survival. Since reindeer live in areas where food often hides under the snow, they rely on a super sense of smell to find their dinner. Reindeer also have special hooves to scoop and dig through the snow to plants and food underneath. Male and female reindeer grow antlers. Each year, the antlers fall off, and the next year, the reindeer grow even bigger antlers, which they use to defend against predators. Ooh, that was very interesting. Okay, now right here, it says to use a red crayon to underline the main idea, use a blue crayon to underline the supporting details. So I need to use red and blue here. So let's see. I had to find the main idea of this story. So, well, this isn't really a story. It's called an article or a passage, right? It's just a very short piece of information, some information that we can read in a couple paragraphs. So, what do you think the author wants us to take away from this passage? Whoever wrote this, what do you think they want us to know? Well, I'm going to look at the first few sentences to see if I can find something that might be the main idea. Did you know that all reindeer do not just live at the North Pole? It's true. Reindeer are interesting creatures. So I have to ask myself, it could be that the main idea might be that reindeer do not just live at the North Pole, but does the author talk about that in this passage, or does the author talk about lots of different things? The author talks about lots of different things, right? The author is talking about really cool facts about reindeer, like how they are very interesting and how they're very neat creatures. And the author says that right here. Reindeer are interesting creatures, right? They can be found in many different countries. They can survive against cold temperatures of their habitats because their coat has 2 layers. They have special hooves to dig through the snow. They lose their antlers and grow new ones. So I think the author is trying to tell us that reindeer are very, very interesting creatures. So that would be the main idea of this passage, the main thing that the author wants us to know. The author wants us to know that reindeer, they're just fabulous, really interesting animals. So I'm going to underline that in red. Okay, it says a red crayon, but I have a red marker. So I am going to underline this. Reindeer are interesting creatures. Now that we have found our main idea, I would love if you could pause this video and do 20 jumping jacks and 15 sit-ups. Ready, set, pause, and then resume when you are finished. Go. Okay, now that you're probably out of breath because you did those 20 jumping jacks and those 15 sit-ups, hopefully you're a little bit ready to keep going with our main idea and supporting details. So now we're going on to the supporting details. Remember, the supporting details are like the ice cream scoops, okay? So we already have our main idea. The main idea is that reindeer are very interesting creatures. That is like the cone. That's holding everything together. Well, how do we know that they're interesting creatures? Like, what does the author say about that for us to think that it might be the main idea? Well, we have to find 3 pieces of information, 3 small details that support the main idea, that let us know that reindeer are interesting creatures, okay? So it says we want to underline those in blue. There's a lot more than 3 details here. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. I want you to try to find one detail. Try to read it on my screen and find one detail of how we know reindeers are interesting creatures. All right, one that really stands out to me is that they are constantly moving from place to place in large herds that may contain thousands of reindeer. I think that's really interesting. I wonder if any of you thought that too. So they're nomadic species, which means they are constantly moving from place to place in large herds that may contain thousands of reindeer. That is one supporting detail, because that's a really interesting fact about reindeer, right? Not all animals do that. Another really interesting detail that I see is that they survive cold temperatures of their habitats because their coat has 2 layers. So their coat is like their fur, okay? They have 2 layers of fur. It's like having 2 blankets on you, except the first blanket, it's like a soft wool layer or like blanket. Okay. And then the other one is a long hollow guard hairs form the top layer. So it's like having 2 layers on you to keep you extra warm. That's kind of what reindeer have. So I'm going to underline, they survive the cold temperatures of their habitats because of their coat has 2 layers. So we need to find one more supporting detail. There's a lot more than one left. I'm going to pick the one that I think is most interesting, and maybe you'll agree with me. I think that it's very interesting that reindeer have a very strong sense of smell. I know that dogs have a really strong sense of smell, but I did not know that reindeer did as well. So that kind of makes me want to use that as it's as the third supporting detail. So they rely on a super sense of smell to find their dinner. Very interesting. Okay, and there's many others too, like that they also have special hooves to dig through the snow to find the food. They also have antlers that fall off. So I think those are also very cool details as well, but these are the 3 details that I picked. So we have our main idea, our first one that ends after reindeer, and then our second one here, and then our third supporting detail here. So I think we're ready to fill in our main idea chart. All right, so the main idea, we said that reindeer are interesting creatures. That is what the author of this passage wants us to know, is that reindeer are very interesting creatures. So I'm going to write that. Reindeer, and I'm going to use a complete sentence by capitalizing the first letter of the sentence and putting a punctuation mark at the end. So reindeer are very interesting creatures. That's like the main thing the author wants us to know. And then all the little scoops of ice cream on top, the 3 scoops of ice cream on top, those are what's going to support the main idea. So actually they are down here this time. The details could either be on top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter, but the main idea is always going to be the biggest thing. Detail. So detail number 1, if I look back here, I said that they are a nomadic species, which means they are constantly moving from place to place in large herds that may contain thousands of reindeer. Well, I'm not going to write all of that. I think a good way to make that a little bit shorter is by saying they are constantly moving from place to place in large herds. So I'm going to write down for my detail number 1 that they are constantly moving place to place to place, or this should be from place to place. So that is my first ice cream scoop, my first detail. They are constantly moving from place to place in large herds. My second detail, I said that they can survive the cold temperatures because of their habitats because their coat has 2 layers. So I'm going to say they survive cold temperatures. They survive cold temperatures because their coat has 2 layers. And this isn't just like cold temperatures like 30 degrees Fahrenheit. This would be like negative, okay? Like you remember a couple of years ago how we had like negative 30-degree weather some days in the wintertime, it would be like that for them. So that's how they survive, because they're like extremely warm blankets that are on them, like they're 2 layers of their fur. Now, the last supporting detail that I underlined was, since reindeers live in areas where food often hides under the snow, they rely on a super sense of smell to find their dinner. So I'm going to just write that reindeers rely on a super sense of smell to find food. So they have a super sense of smell to find food. Very good. And that's it. Okay, so the main idea that reindeer are very interesting creatures, and our 3 details down here all help to support that. It all goes along with the main idea that they're very interesting, because all 3 of these details are very interesting details about reindeer. Okay, so you are going to go on Seesaw now, and you are going to do the main idea activity with young Thomas Edison. And the main idea is already found for you. I already wrote down that the main idea is that Thomas Edison was a great inventor, and you have to find 3 supporting details that go along with that main idea. So you have to find 3 details that support that Thomas Edison was a very great inventor. And obviously, you need to use your Journeys book. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. If you need to take a small break before doing your Seesaw assignment, then go ahead and do that. I know this was kind of long, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day.